Senate will come back to order. Messages from the House.
The following messages are dated February 24th, 2026, and the bills passed third reading amended. Mr. President, the bill listed below passed the House on third reading. House Bill 103, Wyoming First Amendment Protection Act. Ayes 54, noes 4, excused 4, conflict 2. House Bill number 188. Message number 188, House Bill number 126, Human Heartbeat Act. Ayes 51, noes 7, excused 4. Each signed Katie Talbot, House Chief Clerk. Message number 189, third reading passed. House Bill number 159, Safeguarding Personal Expression at K through 12 Schools. Ayes 52, noes 7, excused 3, signed Katie Talbot, House Chief Clerk.
Thank you. House bills on first reading. Oh. Senator Cooper.
Privilege of the floor, Mr. President.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just above you there, Mr. President, there's some guests that came down today from all the way from Tinsleep. This is the Tinsleep High School class of 2027, our juniors. They're missing a couple of them, and their principal, Mr. Robert Griffin. I'd like to give them all a round of applause. They're headed back home this evening, so they just came down to visit us and have a little tour.
Welcome to the Senate, Tinsleep. Mr. Griffin, always good to see you, sir. We miss you up at Tongue River, but I bet Tinsleep's happy to have you, sir. Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Privilege of the floor.
Floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce a few constituents we have here in our capital city from Glen Rock, from Senate District 2. Brandy Sorensen and Kathy Holman are visiting us right behind you, Mr. President. I have to say it's been one of my favorite parts of the job is watching regular citizens become involved in this legislative process. So they're here testifying in front of the Judiciary Committee, really been very passionate about protecting our kids and are here to watch us begin our work here this afternoon. So why don't you go ahead and join me in welcoming them to the Senate.
Welcome to the Senate. Senator Rothfuss.
Mr. President, may I have the privilege of the floor?
Yes, sir.
Mr. President, a couple of my favorite students in the entire state are
Wow.
here today. Two of the very best. They are my kids, and they are with my beautiful wife, Heather. We've got Finn Rothfuss and Cora Rothfuss and my wife, Heather Rothfuss. Please welcome them to the Senate.
Good to see you, Finn, Cora, and Heather Rothfuss. Welcome to the Senate. Thanks for letting us borrow your husband. He is the brain of the Senate here. Okay, anybody else? Let's do some introductions. House Bill 95, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 95, Concealed Carry Colleges and Universities, an act relating to weapons, sponsored by Harrelson. Ayes 55, noes 6, excused 1.
House Bill 96 is assigned to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. I am so sorry. House Bill 95 is assigned to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. House Bill 96, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 96, Carrying of Concealed Weapons, Age Requirement, passed the House. Ayes 58, noes 3, excused 1. Sponsor Harrelson.
House Bill 96 is assigned to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. House Bill 70, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 70, Wyoming Granite Act, sponsored by Singh, passed the House, aye 46, no 12, excused 4.
House Bill 90, or House Bill 70 is assigned to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. House Bill 178, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 178, Public Unions, Transparency, and Dues Withdrawal Limitations, sponsored by Williams. Engrossed, passed the House, aye 36, no 22, excused 4.
House Bill 178 is assigned to Committee Number 1, Judiciary. House Bill 145, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 145, removing triple taxation for resident EV owners, sponsored by Yin. Engrossed, passed the House, aye 46, no 12, excused 4.
House Bill 145 is assigned to Committee Number 3, Revenue. House Bill 52, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 52, Elections, Hand Counting for Recounts, sponsored by corporations. Engrossed, passed the House, aye 49, no 9, excused 4.
House Bill 52 is assigned to Committee Number 7, Corporations. House Bill 84, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 84, falsifying election documents, sponsored by Management Audit, passed the House, aye 61, excused 1.
House Bill 84 is assigned to Committee Number 7, Corporations. House Bill 80, first reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 80, Identification Cards Renewal for Care Facility Residents, sponsored by Jarvis, passed the House. Engrossed, aye 61, excused 1.
House Bill 80 is assigned to Committee Number 10, Labor. Reports from standing committees.
Mr. President, dated February 24, 2026, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 111, engrossed, state-funded capital construction, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators French, Garou, Larson, and Salazar. Excuse, Senator Driscoll. Signed, Senator Salazar, Chairman. Mr. President, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 106, Smoke Buster Module Leaders, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators Garou, Larson, and Salazar. Voting no, Senator French. Excuse, Senator Driscoll. Signed, Senator Salazar, Chairman. Mr. President, dated February 24, 2026, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 36, engrossed, Forestry Division Wildland Fire Modules, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators Garou and Salazar. Voting no, Senator French. Excused, Senator Driscoll and Senator Larson. Signed, Senator Salazar, Chairman. Mr. President, dated February 24, 2026, your Committee Number 2, Appropriations, to whom was referred House Bill 112, Riverton State Office Task Force Sunset, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators French, Garou, and Salazar. Excused, Senators Driscoll and Larson. Signed, Senator Salazar, Chairman. Mr. President, your Committee Number 5, Agriculture, State and Public Lands and Water Resources, to whom was referred House Bill 78, Forest Health Grant Program, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass as amended. Voting aye, Senators Crago, Ide, Love, McEwen, and Pearson. Signed, Senator Ide, Chairman.
Thank you, Tom. Mr. Tentative Chairman of Agriculture, how are you, sir? Just kidding. Oh, yeah, you might need the microphone. You got a couple re-referrals for me?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I thought you wanted to keep me muted over there. Yeah, Mr. President, I'd like to re-refer House Bill 78 Forest Health Grant to appropriations. There is an appropriation on there,
Which house number is that?
78.
78, okay.
And,
Let's do that one first.
okay, thank you.
Absent objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 78 has been re-referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Next.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The second one is House Bill 87, Omnibus Water Planning. Re-refer that as well to appropriations. Thank you, Mr. President.
Absent
Without
objection, House Bill 87 is referred to Committee Number 2, Appropriations. Thank you. Okay. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side of Senate File 116, I move for the immediate reconsideration of the third reading vote on Senate File 116.
Okay. This is a majority vote, right, Madam Chair? Chief Clerk? Yes, this will be a majority vote. We're voting on reconsideration of House Bill 116.
For reconsideration. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? No. Brennan? No. Case? No. Cooper? Aye. Crago? Aye. Crum? No. Dockstader? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? No. Guru? No. Hicks? No. Hutchings? No. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Cole? No. Landon? Aye. Larson? No. Love? No. McEwen? No. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Brennan, no to aye. McEwen? No to aye. Larson? No to aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. For reconsideration of Senate File 116, 18 aye, 13 no.
By your vote, you have adopted the motion to reconsider House Bill 116. We will now take a roll call vote on House Bill 116. What is the catch title on that bill? All right. Reconsideration vote on Senate File 116, Surface Water Drainage Utilities. The Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Third reading roll call, Senate File 116 upon reconsideration. Anderson? No. Barlow? No. Boner? Aye. Brennan? No. Case? Aye. Cooper? No. Crago? No. Crum? Aye. Dockstader? Aye. Driscoll? No. French? No. Guru? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? No. Larson? I. Love? I. McEwen? No. Nethercott? No. Olson? No. Pappas? No. Pearson? I. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? No. Schuler? No. Scott? I. Steinmetz? I. President Beitman?
No.
No. Dockstetter? I to no. I? No to I. Jones? I to no. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Third reading roll call of Senate File 116. 12 aye, 19 no.
Having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, Senate File 116 has failed the Senate. Okay. Madam Majority Floor Leader, that clears the desk.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate resolve itself into committee of the whole.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Any changes? Any changes? Just kidding. Motion passes. Senator Brennan, come on up.
The Committee of the Whole will please come to order. The first bill for our consideration is House Bill 2. The reading clerk will read the bill, please.
House Joint Resolution 2, Federal Mineral Royalties State Share. A joint resolution requesting Congress to introduce a bill and enact a law sponsored by Resource Management, referred to committee number 5, which returned a do pass as amended recommendation, voting aye. Senators Ide, Love, McEwen, and Pearson. Excuse Senator Crago, signed Senator Ide, Chairman.
I need to correct what I said. It's House Resolution 2. You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Senator Ide?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Joint Resolution 2 do pass. There is a standing committee amendment on this. Could I have that read in?
House Joint Resolution 2, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1.
I'd like to go ahead and move that standing committee amendment number 1 to House Joint Resolution 2 and ask for your favorable consideration. So this is just a kind of an addition. It's a cleanup item here. If you're looking at the bill on the first page, there's a reference on line 6 that says, in Wyoming, approximately 46% of the surface land area is owned by the federal government. All we did there was just add in the surface area, the 46% of the surface land area, and more than 69% of the subsurface resources of the state of Wyoming. So that's all that standing committee amendment did. We should have got that in this summer when we got the bill drafted. So I'd ask for any questions on that. Just kind of clarify, this deals with minerals, so we should have mentioned the mineral estate. I'll take any questions.
Any questions on the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of Senator Ide's motion to adopt the standing committee amendment number 1 to House Resolution 2, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Okay, that amendment passes. Senator Ide.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll go ahead and work into the bill here. So this bill came out of our Select Federal Natural Resource Management Committee over the summer, and it was kind of a follow-on to what happened in joint appropriations over the summer, where our good chairman from the Senate and the other chairman from the House sent a letter back to our national delegation requesting a royalty change in our share of federal mineral royalties. And we followed on with the same percentage of changing it from 50% to 87.5%. And we wanted to follow on with that. We kind of had that in our interim topics anyway. And so we went a step further with a resolution with a little more detail. And this resolution will actually go to the President of the United States, the President of the Senate, Speaker of the House, and our national delegation back in Washington, and ask them to basically change the law and or change the royalty share, similar to, I think, Alaska. On certain lands up in Alaska, they get 90%. So we thought it sure doesn't hurt to ask. And a lot of that was as a result of, with a big, beautiful bill, the royalty share went from 16 2/3 to 12.5%. Our coal royalties went from 12.5% to 7%. So the revenue that we were getting off of those impaired us. So we thought it was a good time maybe to ask to get that royalty share changed, and ask nicely and see what happens. So essentially, all this bill does, folks, is, I'll just read the catch title, a joint resolution requesting Congress to introduce a bill and enact law to increase the state of Wyoming's share of federal mineral royalties from 50% to 87.5%. That's the meat of the bill. The rest of it just kind of describes the revenue losses that we've had as a result of the big, beautiful bill. I think it's a good thing to ask for. It's our federal mineral royalty just last year, 2025, I think was close to $600 million. So that would substantially increase our royalty share if anybody back in Washington would be as kind to do that for us. So there is a committee of the whole amendment on this. Committee of the whole amendment. Could I have that read in right now?
Yes.
House Joint Resolution 2, Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1, page 4, line 4.
Okay, Senator Ide.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I move Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Joint Resolution 2 and ask for your favorable consideration. All this does, we moved another one out of Select Federal Natural Resources here that the Minerals Committee had put language in there on the 2% fee that we're getting charged by the federal government on administering our royalty share, whether it's leasing or royalties. So all we did was take that language from that bill that we passed out of here and included it into this bill. So they kind of, they're not really they're just complementary bills. We wanted to keep them separate because Congress may like one or not the other. So it's just sort of a sister language for this bill to complement that one. And I'll stand for any questions on that standing committee amendment, or that committee of the whole amendment.
Any questions on the Committee of the Whole amendment? Okay. All those in favor of Senator Ide's motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Joint Resolution 2, please say aye. All opposed, no. The motion is adopted. Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Joint Resolution 2 has passed. We are back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, this is all very fine and good. I suppose it gives us the illusion of doing something. But, Madam Chairman, I can't ever remember the feds paying any attention to one of these joint resolutions petitioning. And this one in particular, they're wrestling with a monstrous deficit back there. They can't afford to. Madam Chairman, we can pass it or not pass it. It won't make the slightest bit of difference in what happens in the real world. If we really want to do something in this area, we should make a serious attempt to buy the subsurface minerals or a portion of them that the federal government owns. That might be a very profitable investment for our permanent funds. And if we bought them, even if we then guaranteed the feds an ongoing share, we could manage them a lot more efficiently and effectively than the federal government is, and they would earn more. So, Madam Chairman, in the future, dealing with this, I would hope that we would see some serious consideration of making such an offer, because they might accept that under the current circumstances. Whereas this is just an illusion of doing anything. I don't think it makes any difference how we vote on it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I asked someone once why they were voting for someone who had absolutely no chance of winning, and the response was because it was the right thing to do. I support this bill.
Further discussion? Senator Anderson.
Madam Chairman, I support this resolution also, but I agree with the senator from Bates Creek. That would be a great investment for our Permanent Mineral Trust Fund, and maybe we could bring a bill next year that would move some of that money so we could buy those mineral interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Anderson. Further discussion? Senator Ide.
I guess my second time, good senator from over the hill from where I live, over at Bates Creek. You know, illusions are subjective for sure, but I think the conversation that he brought up regarding maybe trying to purchase them or other avenues we can get started, I think this is a good start to maybe get people engaged back in there, back in Washington, our delegation, both houses of Congress back there, the president, and just, work toward a solution of getting more of what's within our borders here that we're rightly due. So I think it's a good comment, but if we don't try, we'll never know. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the bill? All right, sensing you all are ready for the question, all those in favor of Senator Ide's motion that when the committee of the whole rise to report that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Resolution 2, say aye. All opposed, no? All right. House Resolution 2 has passed committee of the whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 34. Will the reading clerk read in the bill?
House Bill 34, Firefighters' Retirement Plans, an act relating to compensation and benefits sponsored by appropriations, engrossed, referred to Senate Committee Number 2, which returned a do pass recommendation, voting aye, Senators Driscoll and Salazar, voting no, Senator French, excused, Senators Garou and Larson, signed Senator Salazar, Chairman.
What is your pleasure, Senator Salazar?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report it, do so with a recommendation that House Bill 34 be passed. And to explain this bill, I will pass it on to my colleague from Powell.
Senator Larson.
Madam Chairwoman, I move House Bill 34, firefighters' retirement plans, and ask for your favorable consideration. The Joint Appropriations talked about this bill and maybe another one coming around here pretty quick, a couple times during the interim. It's hard to keep our wildland firefighters. They tend to get trained for a couple years, and then they work with federal agencies, and they notice that the federal agencies are kind of paying a little bit better and benefits are a little bit better, and so that's the whole reason for this bill. The bill will help the Wyoming State Forestry be able to recruit and retain qualified wildland firefighters. It amends definitions in the retirement statutes. It gives our full-time forestry conservation program employees the ability to join the law enforcement retirement plan. It gives the full-time wildland firefighters employees a chance to join the Wyoming National Guard firefighter plan. Coverage would start July 1st, 2026. On the other side of the building, we had an amendment added, and it added temporary full-time to include 9 and 6 month seasonal wildland firefighters, the ability to join the National Guard firefighter retirement plan. So that pretty much, I better mention that. The appropriation is $411,000. It was $181,000, but we added, on the other side, the seasonal wildland firefighters. So I'll take some questions.
Okay. Questions for the Senator Hicks?
Madam Chairman, a question on these is when the Appropriations Committee looked at this, because these are two different retirement programs. One's a law enforcement and one's for guard firefighters. But each one of those categories has different benefits, different levels of contributions, different times of service. So let's take for an example, law enforcement. I think we contribute 14.88% to their retirement, and then they can kick in, I believe it's like 3.16. But they're vested in 6 years, and they can start taking retirement at 50. But if you go into these other retirement programs, they're different and I just want to see if so if we go into the state program that most of the people are in, then the judges are in a different program. So we have all these different retirement programs out here that have different levels of benefits, different levels of contributions between the employer, and I just want to know, are these identical? Because my recollection is they're not, but I want to confirm that these retirement, because they're doing the exact same job. They're doing the exact same job, but now we're different contributions, different vesting periods, different retirement dates. And so with law enforcement, at age 50, you can fully retire and only have to have 6 years vested. It's different for many of the other programs. I just wondered if JAC went through there and looked at that to make sure these were absolutely comparable.
Senator Drew.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's a great question, and I know we discussed it. And I don't have the figures in front of me, but before second reading, we'll have them for you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further discussion on the bill, Senator Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I do have on my notes here that the Wyoming National Guard firefighter plan has better death and disability benefits. So I don't know if that helps anyway. I do know that they can get in serious situations at times. So we'll try to get you some more information.
Further discussion on the bill? All right, all those in favor of Senator Salazar's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rise to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 34, say aye. Those opposed, no. That has passed Committee of the Whole. House Bill 34 has passed Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 35. Will the reading clerk please read in the bill?
House Bill 35, firefighters paid leave and hazard pay, an act relating to the Office of State Lands and Investments, sponsored by appropriations, engrossed, referred to committee number 2, which returned a do pass recommendation, voting ayes, Senators Driscoll, Guru, Salazar. Voting no, Senator French, excused, Senator Larson, signed Senator Salazar, Chairman.
You have heard the reading bill. What is your pleasure, Senator Salazar?
Madam Chair, I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with the recommendation that House Bill 35 do pass. And again, I will pass this over to my colleague from Powell.
Senator Larson.
Madam Chairwoman, I move House Bill 35, firefighters paid leave and hazardous pay, and ask for your favorable consideration. This is another one that helps keep our state forest fire, wildland firefighters retention increases with this. They're having difficulties again, and then we were hoping this would help. This was one of the others that we discussed. How it will help our state forestry, the appropriation will fund wildland firefighters paid leave consistent with the federal standards for their wildland firefighters, and also the appropriation will fund wildland firefighters working in hazardous conditions, and it'll relate to the federal standards. I can take questions if you want. That pretty much gets it. Oh, the appropriation is $422,500 from the general funds, and it will be included in the standard budget.
Discussion on the bill. Discussion on the bill? Sensing you are all ready for the question, all those in favor of Senator Salazar's motion that when the Committee of the Whole rise to report, that it do so with a favorable recommendation that House Bill 35 do pass, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no? No. House Bill 35 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 85. Will the reading clerk please read in the bill?
House Bill 85, post-election audit procedures, an act relating to elections, engrossed, sponsored by management audit, referred to committee number 5, which returned a do pass as amended, committee number 7, I'm sorry, which returned a do pass as amended, voting ayes, Senators Boner, Dockstader, Landon, Steinmetz, voting no, Senator Case, signed Senator Case, Chairman.
You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Senator Case?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. I move that when the Committee of the Whole rises to report, it do so with a do pass recommendation on House Bill 85, post-election audit procedures. There is a standing committee amendment. Would you have that read in at this time?
Yes, if we could have the standing committee amendment read in.
House Bill 85, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1, page 2, line 12. 2 engrossed copy.
Madam Chairwoman, I would move the standing committee amendment. And for an explanation of the bill and the amendment, I'd ask that you zoom away from corporations and go to the land of management audit with Senator Larson.
Senator Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move, Chairwoman, there we go. I move House Bill 85 and ask for your favorable consideration. Management Audit Committee discussed this quite a bit. It kind of pertains to some situations that we had over on a county on the eastern side, or western side, or eastern side of the state, concerning post-election audit procedures. So this bill would require, essentially, the main thing it would do is require minutes to be taken for the post-election ballot audit. And that is shown on page 2. And those minutes shall be presented and given to the Secretary of State no later than the second Wednesday following the election. And then it also, on page 2, section C, the county clerk shall notify, I'm just gonna read it, I think that might be the easiest. The county clerk shall notify the county chairman of each political party having a candidate on the ballot and all independent candidates of the time and place of the audit, and that's referring to the post-election audit required under this section. Not less than 2 electors from the county who shall be representatives of different political parties shall be present to observe the audit procedures and the results of the audit. Each person present to observe the audit under this subsection shall take an oath. We thought that was important. If an insufficient number of representatives are not available, the county clerk may appoint some. And they wouldn't need to be from different political parties preferably. And then representatives observing the audit shall be given the opportunity to register any observed errors with the county clerk, and the county clerk shall provide those registered statements and any response to the statements to the Secretary of State. So we thought this was important.
Okay. Any questions on the amendment? Senator Boner.
Yeah, that was an explanation of the bill. I'll go into the amendment if that's okay right now.
Yes.
So the subject of the amendment, which has been read and moved, is basically what we're dealing with is how to allow for public participation, public observation of this post-election audit without overwhelming the clerk. We consider the possibility that, what if there's more people that showed up to the post-election audit than the room could possibly fit? What if there's such an interest that, there wasn't enough room to actually perform the audit? And so what the committee did is that it went in, and it still requires at least 2 people, but gives the clerk the discretion to limit the number to ensure an orderly audit. We also struck the language that it requires it to be from 2 different political parties, and opened it up a little bit, saying that you just need 2 different political affiliations. I think this opens up to political or independent candidates, not just those associated with the party, and then open up to the members of the public as well. So just a little bit of tweak as to who can observe the audit and give the county clerks the responsibility in some direction as to how to deal with the circumstance where maybe there may be so much interest that it inhibits them from an orderly audit. So that's the standing committee amendment. Ask for your consideration and or stand for any questions for the amendment.
Any questions on the amendment? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not familiar with what a political affiliation is as far as whether that's statutory or not. Could we get more discussion on that? We have political parties clearly defined and a registration process clearly defined. I'm not familiar with a process or definition for political affiliation, so how would we have an expectation of separation on that? That's my first question. Actually, that's all I think for the amendment at this time. So walk me through how that would actually play out.
Senator Case.
Yeah, Madam Chairwoman, I'm not positive that political affiliation is defined, but work with me a little bit about this. If we know what a political party is, that's Democratic and Republican Party, for example, Libertarian Party, others. But there are lots more independent people nowadays. We don't call them the independent party. There's no party. So we needed a way to capture that in a way that if you're not online, that's an affiliation. And so the word affiliation is, and we have 2 readings to search for better wording if you wish. But the idea is that it would include people that are formally parts of parties, as well as people that are not. So that is where we're searching and trying to go. I'm getting a quizzled look from the ivory tower senator. I think it does work, though. Think about it, the practicalness of it.
Further discussion on the minute. Senator Boner.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And just a brief search for our statutes. I think there's some more language when it comes to appointing boards and commissions. We do have that political affiliation language in there. I'm not sure if there's an exact definition, but certainly intent is exactly what the chairman described, is to, as long as you're basically not, you can't have two people from the same political party. And maybe that's a better way of saying that. You have to have a diverse representation there, and that's the intent.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And maybe if I read this in more carefully, it does this, but I guess the concern is this, and it's similar to our boards and commissions. With the boards and commissions, we used to have a clear party split, and it was explicit in party split. And then a number of years ago, we changed some things, and so the way the party split has worked out at this point in time is the party split tends to be some number of the majority party, and then some number of independents, and no members of the minority party. And that has become the common practice. And yeah, you know, it's the way we roll sometimes. I guess the concern is it would be very easy in this circumstance, and I'm not sure whether the clerk gets to choose what members are able to participate or not, but I can imagine a circumstance where it would be very easy based on the original language, and now I'm trying to read into this new language the idea that I can be selective about which political affiliations are going to be welcomed, and I only have to have a few that are different, so I can do what we're doing with boards and commissions now, which is to intentionally choose certain parties and affiliations while not choosing other parties and affiliations so that you can have a selective outcome. I think the intent was probably to ensure that you had broad participation. I don't think it does that, and that's my concern, the way that it's being written.
Senator Boner.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And just a little bit more color to the discussion we had in committee. The committee was concerned because of the shall in there, like you have to have at least two different political affiliations, and maybe in some parts of the state that may be difficult. And so there's a concern with that requirement, which is kind of the core of the bill. You're requiring that there be some observation. And so what if you cannot find somebody from the two political parties in, say, a rural county who shall be there? We're going to get, what are we going to do if they don't want to be there? You know? And so it was just an attempt to provide more flexibility for the clerks, because that shall is so important to the bill, yet there's this potential for having difficulty in meeting the statutory requirement without the amendment. So that's a little bit more color there and a little bit more information what the committee was trying to get at. And if we need to further massage the language, I think that's entirely appropriate.
Further discussion on the standing committee amendment. All those in favor of Senator Case's motion to adopt the Standing Committee Amendment 1 to House Bill 85, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? Okay, that amendment passes. We have a Committee of the Whole amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
House Bill 85, Committee of the Whole, Amendment Number 1, 2, engrossed copy, page 2, line 16.
What is your pleasure, Senator Schuler?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would move Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 85 and ask for your aye vote on this. I think this amendment, I hope, will just add a little bit more clarification to the bill. The bill requires party representatives to be present to observe the post-election audit and sign the oaths, and I think everybody's okay with that. But I think, letting all the members of the public to view them You can allow them to sit in the room and listen to the process, but, and maybe some counties in the past have not allowed that, and that may be the reason that this bill was drafted. But, we want to be able to ensure witnesses for this important procedure. But I think the language in the bill right now creates a requirement for anyone who wants to watch the process to sign an oath and then be able to see the ballot images and their cast vote record. So I think this violates Article 611 in our Constitution. If you take a look at the last sentence in that, it says, all voters shall be guaranteed absolute privacy in the preparation of their ballots, and the secrecy of the ballot shall be made compulsory. So I think this amendment kind of helps with that. There's occasionally reasons that election judges and canvass board members who they're under oath, would need to see a ballot or a ballot image, and that's very limited, but, occasionally necessary. But again, I think with HB 85 as it is now, potentially any member of the public could just sign an oath and have the expectation that they could see the ballot images. And so I think the nature of opening that up to everybody to see that is not in keeping with the Constitution. So, and granted, you might not have 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 people show up, but the likelihood goes up. The more people that see that and recognize somebody's handwriting on a write-in ballot, it just kind of opens up not only the clerks, but to public records requests, but it's against the Constitution. So I'd ask you to vote aye on this amendment.
Any discussion on the amendment? Senator Case.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you very much. I want to point out to my good colleagues on the Corporations Committee, especially Senator Landon and Senator Steinmetz, this is the amendment that we put in as well. So, this is the same amendment. But on the basis of the amendment, no one's talking about looking at ballot images. No one. This audit's not about ballot images. Never was, it's not. It's fine to put it in there. With regard to the committee's position was that members of the public, if there's room, let members of the public be there. That was the kind of it covered in the first amendment, if you look. But I support this amendment. It's the same one that members of our committee, I didn't get to everybody, but the few of you that were here before lunch, we got to it and we put it in. So it's the exact same amendment, and this accomplishes the same thing.
Thank you. Just going to make a friendly reminder, no proper names, please.
That's actually not the rule. And if you're being positive about your colleagues, it's not ever been an enforced rule. You don't have to invent a certain name, but it is true. Because their names would have been on the amendment if we would have got through the process.
Oh, my apologies. Senator Case, I stand corrected. Further discussion on the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of Senator Schuler's motion to adopt the Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 85, please say aye. All opposed, no. All right. Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 has been adopted. We are back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. For those that are bringing the bill, I'm just curious if those elected officials that facilitate and run our elections are in support of this bill. I'm curious about the impetus for it, why we're bringing this. I just want to know if we're adding additional work or if we're actually improving the security of our elections. And I don't necessarily have a sense for that based on the discussion so far. So if we could have a little more discussion on who is supporting this, why are we doing this, and how will it help to improve election security in the state of Wyoming?
Senator Landon, and then we'll go to Senator Larson.
Well, Madam Chairman, that's a great question. We were asking that in the corporation's committee meeting, and we've been asking that throughout the interim. In this particular case, I voted to bring it up here, but told the committee I didn't know if I could support it on third reading. My concern on this bill and some others is that we keep piling more and more and more on top of our county clerks. And in this case, we're talking about square footages that don't amount to very much in many of these counties. And we are dictating things like, we expect you to get a hold of each of the major parties, and we want to invite another neighbor or two who might be unaffiliated or affiliated with something else. And pretty soon, we're gonna have people in there bumping into machines and too many people in a room. So we talked a lot about that, frankly, on several bills. We've got canvassing boards, we've got watchers, and now in the post-audit thing that we're considering here, it's just one more thing that I'm trying real hard to reach up and grab and convince myself that it's gonna do any good. So yeah, great question. And now it's here so that we can decide how we want to answer that question.
Senator Case?
Madam Chairwoman, I wasn't persuaded to support this bill in committee. I was the no vote in committee. What struck me is there's nothing magic about this audit. It's typically done as part of the canvassing board. And it's, excuse me, I'm all choked up about this bill apparently. It's really a perfunctory thing. And it involves the cast votes, kind of comparing them against the ballot styles. The canvassing board typically does this. This formalizes all that. And I was not persuaded that there's any magic time to do this, or that it is something that requires this heavy hand. This did not come through the Corporations Committee. This came through Management Audit, and it wasn't part of their interim topics, Madam Chairwoman, but they decided to take it up because they had heard concerns from one of our higher up elected officials in Wyoming. And I'm not sure that the path was a good path that went on. We did election in corporations, and we did election last year, and we did elections year before that. And I was a little surprised to find that another committee was working on elections issues, and I wasn't persuaded that this one should rise to the top, Madam Chairwoman, or that it accomplishes anything at all but add more work for our already overworked clerks. It doesn't improve election accuracy. It does not.
Senator Boner?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. A little bit more background. So this post-election audit is relatively new to our statutes. So to go back a little bit more background, this was something that was implemented via rule, I believe, for the 2022 election cycle. We codified those rules in 2023 in this legislature. And the idea is that you go through and you check a statistically significant amount of ballots, but no more than 5%, against the ballot image. So you can verify if there is a problem, if there is something that is wrong, say the machines were not properly programmed, as did happen in a recent election. You're supposed to be able to catch that sort of mistake with this post-election audit. And so the vast majority of our clerks did that. They did it well. It's something that they've been doing for the past several election cycles, I believe going back to 2022. And that's why we put that 5% limit in there, so that they could get this done in time for the state canvassing board, and so that we didn't overburden them in the days after the election. And so, it's worked pretty well. We had a challenge in the eastern part of the state where there's, this audit, if it was performed properly, should have caught a significant oversight in the conduct of that election. And so the testimony we heard in committee was that there's something wrong with the way that audit was conducted, if it was conducted at all. There's actually no evidence that it was conducted. That's why we have this bill, to provide some sort of mechanism to ensure that that audit is being taken seriously. And that's the reason for the bill. And a little bit of background as to this particular post-election audit, which is relatively new. So hopefully that background helps a little bit. I hate to speak for our county clerks. I certainly don't remember them being opposed to it. I'll say that. They could have been neutral, they could have been for it, but certainly can verify that regard. So they're already doing the work. This does add a little bit to their plate for certain, but the vast majority of this work has already been accomplished the past 3 election cycles at least.
Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This did come out of an issue in one of the counties that I represent, and I have heard from the management audit well, they weren't there to present the bill, but our good Secretary of State said that they had convened a working group on this and that they had gone through several months of testimony and information concerning the situation that happened up there, and they were hoping to find a mechanism to prevent some of that in the future. And that one of the problems was the post-election audit, Madam Chairman, was not performed. There were no witnesses there. So really the meat of the bill is that someone shall be there. But I would call on some members of management audit that might remember the discussions they had during the interim, why they brought this bill forward, some of the work that they have done on this issue. But that is the testimony we heard. I would support my colleague in saying the clerks did not say they were opposed to this bill. They didn't necessarily say they were for it, but they were not opposed. And of course, the Secretary of State's office helped them find the problems that happened in that election, and thus the subsequent actions with the Attorney General's office and the Governor's office, and then some of these bills you're seeing. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, I serve on that Management Audit Committee, and that was part of the reason why I asked the question, because I didn't, through the Management Audit Committee, become aware of any call from our county clerks or any of the elected officials that would be responsible for it. And I also very distinctly remember that it was not one of our interim topics. The committee picked up a few different topics that it chose through the course of, I think, the first meeting of things that it wanted to work on. And I believe this was one of those topics, but I was trying to explore, Madam Chairman, whether I missed something, which was very possible. I didn't serve on the working group, and I believe that working group was the entity that then went out and explored this space a little bit. The concern I have, Madam Chairman, is that we really, as I understand it, we do have a corporations committee that works very carefully and closely with our county clerks to develop exactly this type of legislation. I know that they have deep participation with those clerks and with our election officials in a way that produces what I contemplate to be well-vetted legislation. In this circumstance, because the Management Audit Committee is not responsible for this topic, my recollection was not a substantial amount of participation except by those entities that, for example, we subpoenaed and brought in that were trying to be compliant, but not everyone showed up. So it became, a different forum that I'm used to hearing our election bills come forward from. So I really do have concerns, and I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad idea, but I can't say it's a good idea either. I really feel like, Madam Chairman, we need a definitive thumbs up from our clerks before we're passing changes to election law that are substantive, as this clearly is. So if this does move forward, I'd perhaps ask for some direct feedback, and maybe we can get some direct comments from that association that represents those clerks around the state, so that we can know whether this is something that they find to be appropriate to help the integrity of our elections, and to make sure that it's not overly onerous on them, because there are some things here that might draw some concern. So if we could have that on second reading, assuming the bill moves on. Thank you.
Thank you. Further, Senator Larson.
Madam Chairwoman, I thank all for this discussion. I do not remember county clerks that were there or online saying they were totally against anything like this. I think it just clarifies, that we need some people watching when they do their post-election audit. And I guess we'll wait and see if we hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Taft. Senator Love, sorry.
Madam
My
Chairman, thank you,
apologies.
through you. I have talked to my county clerk about this bill, and they felt that it had strayed, but that Senator Schuler's amendment cleaned it up, and that they would be happy with it. So, on and forward.
Thank you. Senator Schuler?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I would just offer that I had a couple of county clerks reach out to me and just thought maybe this amendment might help clarify the bill a little bit. Didn't offer a thumbs down or thumbs up, just wanted clarification, so that's what the amendment does. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the bill? Okay. Sensing you're all ready for the question, all those in favor of Senator Keese's motion that when the committee of the whole rise to report that it do so with the favorable recommendation of House Bill 85, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no?
No.
The chair is in doubt. Will all those in favor please rise? Those opposed, please rise. Keep it there, okay. 15 aye, 13 no. House Bill 85 has passed the committee of the whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 105. If the reading clerk will please read in the bill.
House Bill 105, K through 12 School Facilities Appropriations 2, engrossed, an act relating to school buildings and facilities, sponsored by Appropriations, referred to Senate Committee 2, voting to do pass as amended recommendation, voting aye, Senators Driscoll, French, Garou, Larson, and Salazar, signed Senator Salazar, Chairman.
You've heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Senator Salazar?
Madam Chair, I move that when the committee of the whole rises to report it, do so with recommendation that House Bill 105 do pass, and I will ask the senator, where the skiing is always great, even though he's not a skier, to describe and present the bill. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Garou.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. There's a standing committee amendment. Can I have it read in at this time, please?
Yes, please.
House Bill 105, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1, to engrossed copy, page 11, line 4.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and we'll work that in as kind of as we go. And then I'll rely on my good senator from across the hill to help me when I make mistakes, because I think he's supposed to be doing this as well. But this is bill of the session, folks, 105, K through 12 facilities appropriations. Good little bill, spends a few $100 million, so you might want to take a gander, and we'll take a walk through. On page 1 and 2, we just talk about that this money is coming from the school foundation accounts and where it's coming from, and talk about the authorizing languages into page 3. Where you want to start to really take a look is, let me find it now. Let's see, page 3. The amounts of, yeah, K through 12, oh, here we go. So if you go to page 5, And start there on line 9. You talk about the major maintenance, component major maintenance of $31,661,000 on line 11. And then it talks, and as you go down the page to line 21, it talks about the schools where those dollars are to be appropriated on to page 6. And then the bottom of page 6, you talk about line 21, we start to talk about charter school lease payments of $6,332,000, and talk about those schools and the amounts listed on page 7. Then moving on to the bottom of page 7, we talk about some more leasing program here, $1.792 million on page 7, and back over into page 8, and the amounts that mow down to the lease payments below in down at the bottom of that page on lines 21 through 23. On to page 9, the $15,739,000 talked about on line 5, page 9, and then how that is laid out going down from lines 11 through 15 for that portion. Then at the bottom of page 9, then you're at the $77,359,000 that is prescribed in the following maximum amounts, going over to page 10. And you'll see those districts and those schools listed there. And then demolition projects, $2,620,000, and those amounts listed below there on page 10. Moving to page 11, and this is where the amendment starts to kick in. It's just a clerical after line 4, after the $7,642,000. What we do there is just delete subject to the maximum and just insert in a parentheses there on amounts. And then the amounts are listed below. And then moving on to page 12. If you flip over to page 12, there's page 12 on line 17. You'll see there that $5 million listed there for safety allotment for schools. That was originally $10 million, and the House took that, our friends down the hall, excuse me, Madam Chair, our friends down the hall lowered that to $5 million. Your Appropriations Committee felt that the $10 million that originally was put in was the correct amount, so we moved at that point to put it back to $10 million, and so that's the second part of the amendment. And so, like I say, the first part is just clerical, the second part is raising that from 5 to 10, and then moving on, you can see that the rest of the section there just talks about after the security projects. It talks on page 13, talks about prioritizing lists and how these funds are appropriated in subsection for safety, and then through page 14 about the timing, and then the big one on page 14, line 20. $237,865,123. Madam Chairman, that's your major maintenance account for the year. Once again, that's usually in the budget, but this year it was moved into this bill by our friends down the hall, and so that's where that number, that major maintenance number, appears. And then on to page 15, it talks about, contemplates about the rest of the money and effective dates. Let's see, 277 million. So it just talks about, yes, all the effective dates of that, and with that, that's pretty much it. So at this time, I would like to move Standing Committee Amendment number 1 to House Bill 105 and ask for your favorable consideration.
Any discussion on Standing Committee Amendment number 1? Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to understand the effect of the page 11, lines 5 through 19 deletion. To me, that's a little more than a technical correction because we're deleting out the design projects and how much we're appropriating for those, for the component level, major maintenance, and for the demolition. And so we kind of had each of those groups siloed, it looks like there. Unless I'm misunderstanding that, could you please provide a little more information for me?
Senator Gross, Senator Rothfus, who wants this one?
You get it.
Senator
Madam Chairman?
Rothfus.
So this is on bottom of page 10 on to page 11. This is the unanticipated costs associated with projects. So we build in a certain buffer, and we do that every year, a certain percentage of unanticipated costs that goes through the school facilities commission's recommendation and through the committee. The A, B, and C paragraphs were a further breakdown that aggregate together to equal the 7.642 million. And it looks like the Appropriations Committee basically said we don't need to have specifics, just go with the aggregated number, and you'd have flexibility across those bins. That's all it is providing more flexibility to the commission. And honestly, that seems fine. The original language came out of the School Facilities Committee, and I see no problem, Madam Chairman, with aggregating it instead of de-aggregating it. There's probably no difference in the end.
Further discussion on the amendment? Senator Hicks?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, it does look like there may be a slight technical correction here because it says delete starting on lines 5 through 19. So I just have you look at that. You may want to have that, bring that back because it deletes the last, it says amounts on line 5. I think that's just a technical correction.
Senator Salazar?
I will get with LSO to make sure that if that is, we will correct it.
Okay. Senator Steinmetz?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I believe the amendment says that we're deleting on line 4, subject to the following maximum, and line 5 amounts, and then deleting lines 6 through 19 or 5 through 19 as the amendment says. So that's how I read it, but maybe I've got it wrong.
Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, it was stated that on page 12, line 17, the other body had changed that to 5 million. My copy reads 2 million. Not that it changes his amendment. He still amended it to 10 million, no matter what the original was, but mine says 2.
Senator Grew?
I think, Madam Chairman, I think the good senator's right. Actually, as I recall now, what happened was in appropriations, on the last day, one of the members came up and made an amendment to one of the expenditures in one of the school districts, and then the money was taken from out of the school as a kind of an offset. So they took the 10 million that was there for school safety and moved it down to 2. Then when they went through their process, they moved the 2 to 5 million. But originally it was 10. So the Senate Appropriations Committee moved it back to 10. And I know that's a little bit convoluted, and what happened was the number that the bringer of the motion to change the amount of it was about a bus barn in one school district, and it was quoted out at $7 million. And when they refined that number, it dropped down to 2. So that's why then they took the money back and put it back into the safety to take it to 5. But your Senate Appropriations Committee felt it was strongly that it should be at 10 million. And so those numbers were just moving as we went through the process. So the good senator's right, it was a good catch.
Further discussion? Senator Hutchings?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too was questioning the amendment, lines 4, deleting entirely lines 5 through 19. Just in my eyes, it makes sense for clarity purposes to know exactly what hundreds and thousands of dollars are being used for instead of just saying, we're going to spend this. So again, if you could really help me with that, I'd appreciate it.
Senator Rothfus?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, when you look at page 10 at the bottom, it says for unanticipated costs associated with the projects funded under paragraphs J Romanet 1 and 5 through 7. So those are basically what you see below in A, B, and C called out explicitly. So the amendment simply aggregates to the full $7.6 million instead of limiting the unanticipated cost potential for example, design projects. So if they needed $1 million of unanticipated for design, they wouldn't hit the 944 ceiling, they could take that out of others. And that's pretty consistent with how we've done it in the past. In fact, a few years ago, we just had one general number that was used for contingency funds, and the department responsibly uses those funds. A lot of times, things will run just a little bit over, so we design in, and we have designed in for as long as I've been on this committee, a little bit of a buffer and flexibility to the commission to allow them to do that. So not calling it out explicitly, as I said before, is just fine, but it still is effectively called out that has to relate to J Romanets 1 and 5 through 7. So it's statutorily called out, even if it's not in the nice, clean, explicit language as it is below.
Further questions on the amendment? All right, sensing you're all ready for the question, all those in favor of Senator Garew's motion to adopt the Standing Committee Amendment 1 to House Bill 105, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. Okay, that amendment has passed. We are back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Senator Landon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Not to take long, Senators, just from a 30,000-foot view, I think it might help to know where this has been in the past and where it is this year. This is a process that has come to us in 2 or 3 different ways through the years. Sometimes it comes as bills out of the Select Committee on School Facilities. Sometimes it comes through the budget. This time, it has come through our Appropriations Committee, which took the bills that were brought by the Select Committee on School Facilities and decided to sponsor as the Appropriations Committee. So that's why you see school facilities under the header of a joint Appropriations Committee. Just so that's just a clarification of how it got here. The other thing that this bill does that we have not done in the past, that was done by our Appropriations Committee, was to take the major maintenance funding and lump it in with the school construction money. So that's all contained in this bill. That is something new this year. That has not been done before, so just wanted to make sure you understood that. Just one more final thing. I wanted to take you to page 7. And if you go down on page 12, or line 12, page 7, you'll see a line item, Natrona 1, K-8 school. I bring that up to you because that is the beginning of what we're going to find as we roll out charter schools. That was a facility that was built in Natrona County. I've heard in the tune of $14 million that was constructed, and because of the way that we are set up, it is up to us now to pay this lease payment. And you'll notice that it is a 1.8 for the next 2 years. So there are 3 or 4 charter schools waiting as well. So that is why there is some contingency money in this bill. Because we have to be able to react, and we don't want to have to wait for 2 years before we can get started on a charter school. So just a couple of things that I thought might be helpful for the body to know. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. And I just wanted to double down on my good chairman's last comment, because it's important to realize we had no say in that. There was no legislative process behind that page 7, line 12, $1.8 million. It is statutorily required to be approved. We didn't participate in any of the planning related to it. We didn't participate in the amount, the sizing, or any other aspect of it. It will go in the budget, and if another school comes along, it too will go in the budget at $1.8 million, and we will not have a single word to say about it on the select committee for school facilities. It bypasses us completely. And Madam Chairman, the other thing I would just note, because again, most of this is from the School Facilities Committee, but I would note that bottom of page 11, the Romanet 9 discussion of the school district transportation facility, that did not go through our select committee. It went through it previously, but the additional funds came after the select committee. So I just wanted to call out the fact that that was not something that was reviewed by the select committee. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Landon.
Madam Chairman, thank you. Just one more thing. I apologize. I forgot to visit just a little bit about the safety and security piece. It's been about a decade since the Select Committee recommended to the Wyoming Senate that we tackle safety and security in the districts out across our state in a very intentional way. And that was broken down into a rubric where we literally started with locks on doors. Came down, 4 or 5 levels in terms of what the district did on the safety and security front. Well, a survey sent out by the State Construction Department, there were about 45 districts that responded, which is an incredible response on a survey like that. All of them needed some updates on equipment, updates on software, bollards out front, vestibules. It's time for us to revisit safety and security. That was the decision of your select committee, that it is time for us to put some funds in place, and we decided that it was best to recommend to you that we do that in grant form. That way there's a little bit more oversight as to what is going on out across the state. So that's why that figure exists. Our appropriations committee, I salute them. They took that from $5 million and put it back up to the $10 million that we recommended out of the select committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on the bill? Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to lead off with a question, and then I may have a comment after that can be answered. Madam Chairman, I'm looking at the fiscal note that was on the original bill as introduced. And as I read it, there's 2 appropriations, both out of the public school program account, which is our operating account for schools. And when you add them up, they total to just under $390 million for the biennium. And obviously there've been some changes made. And my question is that, how has that appropriation changed? Is that still an approximately accurate reading of the appropriation in this bill?
Senator Drew?
Madam Chairman, the answer to the question, to the best of my knowledge, within $5 million, that's accurate.
Madam Chairman.
Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, I appreciate that answer. And that's what I'm concerned about. Madam Chairman, construction, it does vary from time to time, but it's an ongoing expense, and I think we're going to see expenses in the order of magnitude that we're seeing right now as we go in the future. And Madam Chairman, this year, the state is in very good financial shape this time. We can afford this, no question about it. We did very well in the stock market, the earnings from our permanent funds, and we have a lot of money, could probably be in part regarded as one-time money. There'd probably be some every year, and some years will be good. There'll be a few years where it won't be there at all. We'll have a loss. We won't get that. But, Madam Chairman, ongoing, this is going to be a major drain on our operating funds because we will bail the school foundation account out rather than cut back the school operating. At least that's my prediction. Madam Chairman, I think that a vote for this bill is a vote for a future tax increase. I think this level of expenditure at the state level is going to get us in trouble. And I would say, Madam Chairman, when I look through this bill, I don't know enough about almost any of these projects to say whether they're really justified or not, whether they are much more expensive than they should be. I can say some of the things that have been built in my district in the past, I would describe them, I guess gold-plated is more expensive than platinum-plated. So I think they're gold-plated. They're very nice schools, but I think they're more than would have been approved by the electorate under the old school bond system, which did work in terms of getting schools in most of the places. There were some special problems, and there's some reasons the court decision came out the way it did. Madam Chairman, I would conclude by saying two things. I think long-term, we're going to have a different system. It may be that things like major maintenance ought to come out of the operating expenses of schools. Those will be more consistent and really are part of operating school. The capital construction, I think we need to go back to some system whereby the local resources are involved. There's a constitutional problem we've got to solve in the debt limitation. That's readily solvable. It has to be a constitutional amendment because the current system was given to us by the Supreme Court. And it has been very expensive. The way we funded it was COLI's bonus money, largely. I don't see significant amounts of that in our future. We're going to get in trouble here. So, Madam Chairman, I think it's going to continue to be in trouble. It's going to grow. And for that reason, I'm a no vote on this bill and on future school capital construction items. We've got to do something different, or you're voting for a tax increase when you vote for this bill.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Landon.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate the good senator from Bates Creek. We have this debate every year, and I always look forward to it. This bill that you have in front of you tonight is probably the most well-vetted bill in the legislature every year. It comes out of state construction. It begins at the district level, goes through a process where our engineers and our state construction department, which is second to none, by the way, vets those projects, brings them up through the pipeline to a commission, which we vote on. The senators approve those appointments by the governor to that school facilities commission. It's vetted there, and then it is brought to your select committee. And the select committee often goes out and puts boots on the ground in those facilities. So when the good senator brings up, I'm not sure if these need building, or yeah, they do. We wouldn't make that recommendation if they didn't, because we've been there. That's your select committee. And those who have served the last couple of years with me on the select committee, I think would agree that it's one of the hardest working committees we have. I'm always really proud of the work that we do. So then it comes to our appropriations committee, and it's further vetted there. And this year, They did a lot of work on this bill, and they worked it hard on the other side, and now it's in front of the Senate. So I would submit to you, this is one of the most well-vetted bills you'll see during the session. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Landon, any other discussion on the bill? Senator Grew.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just kind of taking off on that from the appropriation side, I couldn't agree more with my friend from Natrona County. We did work hard on this bill, and I know how hard the school facilities committee worked on this bill. And to be honest, there were divergent views between us and the folks down the hall about should the major maintenance be in the budget and not be in this bill, or taking this bill out. We could go on and on about that, but the bottom line is has been well vetted. Now, to the good tall senator from Bates Creek, his comment, I do agree with him about the more long-term questions that he's asking. I think it begs those questions that we have to start grappling with as far as how we're doing this. I too sometimes think to the old days, and in my neck of the woods, I never, 20 plus years we were doing it, did we ever turn down a bond issue? And we felt like we got good value for our money. And we went, of course, because of court decisions, we've gone away from that. And I too question about how much more that has cost us. But what I can say right now, today, is that what's in front of us in this bill has been vetted, it has been cost adjusted, it has been worked and reworked. And so I really think it is a bill worthy of your support and a bill worthy of your consideration now. But I do agree those larger questions do need to be discussed thoroughly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Senator Hickson and Senator Salazar.
Chairman, I don't think anybody is trying to impugn the hard work that goes into any of these committee bills, and I did have an opportunity to serve on this, and I would say, Chairman from Natrona County, the less stature, the lower one, my chairman at the time, he's right. It is extremely well vetted and stuff, but my tall colleague from Natrona County is absolutely right, folks, and I just want to draw your attention because it's not, we have to do the major maintenance. And I mean, that's something that we need to put money in, and we need to do the modular leases, and we need to prepare. It's the rate of what we build schools that's causing a lot of problems, in my estimation, and there's a finite amount of money there. And so we've had this debate 2 years in a row now. I mean, some of these high schools are, and I'll rely on my two colleagues, have a better estimate, what's an average high school cost? Well, we got 2 of them right here. You got 3 more elementary schools that are going there. So you're talking $250 million alone in just new construction that this is keying up. And I think that's the part that my colleague from the tall one from Natrona County keeps saying. It's not what we're doing, it's what we're feeding into the pipeline, and how can we manage that better? And I have grave concerns for the future of the state of Wyoming if we don't come to grips with how much we spend building these schools. It's going to take, there's a finite amount of money, and you're going to allocate that from teachers and then structural things because it's in the same account, and you're going to have to decide what's most important for education of your kids in the state of Wyoming. Is it new buildings? Is it brand new buildings? Or is it instructional aids and teachers and those things that fundamentally advance education in the state of Wyoming? That's a decision that future legislators are going to have to make. Money is finite. But specifically, Madam Chairman, on the bill, I've got a question because I don't understand the structure of the school safety and security. And so when we go back to those pages, and this is just for edification, and you go into page 12 and you look at subsection A, and it talks about vestibules and vehicle barricades approved and prioritized by school districts, safety, securities, and remedies. And I'm just trying to understand the flow as you go through there. And then you go to subsection B, and then it says the remedies are supposed to utilize national and regional best practice. The commission shall consider all of those safety and security issues. And then we get down to subsection C, and then it says each safety and security remedy, the commission shall include the remedy. And then you flip over to the page, and it comes back, and it basically says that we have to fund security vestibule and vehicle barriers to complete highways or school safety and security needs. My question in here, aren't we gonna allow these school districts and the SBC and that go out there to determine what those security measures should be, or are we predetermined that we're gonna be building barriers and vestibules? And that's the question I asked. And it's just the structure of this. It looks like we're saying, well, this is the first thing you have to do, and we're gonna fund that, even if that may not be the highest priority. So if I could just get some explanation on the flow of that, it would be helpful.
Senator Rothfuss?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm going to start with the last question first. When you go back to page 12, you see that on lines 19 through 21, it does start off with for design of security vestibules and vehicle barricades, and then it has and approved prioritized school district safety and security remedies. So that's three components, where the third one is whatever the district thinks they need. The first two, the security vestibules and vehicle barricades, just happen to be high priority. They're a topic of continuous conversation for us and have been recently, because that's something the districts haven't been able to always get done that want them, and they're relatively pricey. So we talked a lot about them. It ended up in the bill, but that last component about having the local school district list is really key. Madam Chairman, we have been working on security for more than the last 10 years, though, for school districts. So a lot of the higher priority, and my good friend from Carbon County was a part of the committee as we worked through some of this. We know that the districts have already tackled what were the highest priority, low-hanging fruit that they could get done. And now we're moving to some of the bigger infrastructure that needs to take place. And that's the purpose of this grant, is to ensure that. So it certainly is up to the school district, creating a prioritized list across the school districts, and then looking for funding opportunities to optimize it and do what's best for the districts. Madam Chairman, on the point about the cost of our school facilities programs and appropriations moving forward, I do think it's important to note, as the good senator just noted, major maintenance is something we just have to do. This is the bill that major maintenance is in. Usually that's in the budget because we just have to do it. Deferred major maintenance costs more money than paying for it now. We fully know that. It's the reason we got ourselves into a situation where we had to repair and or replace a lot of our schools at great expense because we deferred the major maintenance. And I'll note, Madam Chairman, this number on major maintenance is insufficient. We're actually cutting it this year because we're moving from 135% of allowable square footage down to 115, since we didn't continue that and it sunsetted and failed out. So even the $240 million that's in this bill is insufficient. It should be higher than that by at least $25 million, if not more. When we look at the total cost of projects, which is the $150-ish million that's in this bill, recognize that some of those are also required cost. The $31 million of component is effectively equivalent to large major maintenance. These are projects that just need to get done, boilers, roofs, things that cost a lot of money, and the state needs to pay for them. So those effectively are costs that can't be eliminated without basically having more costs in the future, or creating safety or other hazardous circumstances for our students. The charter school leases, we've got $8-ish million there, and we can't say no to those. Those have to be funded as well. So whether you like it or not, the $8 million has to be paid for, and it's going to be paid for. Whether this bill goes up or down, somehow that's going to have to be paid for because we're statutorily obligated to pay for it. And then when we get to actual projects, this is probably the lightest bill. It's one of the lightest bills that we've brought since I've been in the legislature. Coming in under $150 million on capital construction is pretty low. And I'm sorry to say that. It would be great if this were a high number and we could expect it to be lower in the future. But the reality is, school buildings are expensive. Prices have gone up dramatically. We pay between $400 and $500 a square foot on average, and oftentimes we get higher than that, and we don't have any solutions for that. So we definitely need to be focused on this. We need to understand that this is going to require funding as part of our school facilities, our school foundation program. But the major maintenance aspect of this, the leasing aspect of this, and the component aspect of this bill, which total about $300 million, are absolutely essential. And we cannot say no to those without great detriment to the state and great expense. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a reminder that the Joint Appropriations Committee made major maintenance a priority, as you can see. Secondly, you all know the makeup of the Senate appropriations. This was voted unanimously in support of these numbers. I also am concerned about the years ahead, but I will tell you that there was an effort made on this to try and be responsible. So, and as everyone knows, I have never voted for a tax increase. I never will vote for a tax increase. So that isn't going to happen with my vote. So, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
Thank you, Senator Salazar. Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, good debate. Appreciate all the discussion. I do think that, yes, we have vetted these programs. Yes, we've got a good construction outfit, good architects and engineers that we use. Madam Chairman, I will say it's my experience that such people, without some pressure of we got to keep the cost within reason, will tend to design and build facilities that are more expensive than they really need to be on occasion. And I look, and we've had good vetting for some time. I look at my community and what got actually built in my community. And I think we built a lot, Madam Chairman, that was more than we needed and more expensive than we needed. And I've seen some of the same in the other communities, but I don't get around the state enough looking at school buildings to know all the things that go on there. I've seen some that suggest the same thing to me that goes on elsewhere. But I would submit to you that the kind of vetting that a part-time citizens legislature can give to what a community needs and really needs is very different from the kind of vetting that you will get by a citizenry that understands and does support public education, but a citizenry that knows exactly what's going on in the community, has to live with it, and whose taxes will go up if they vote yes. And watching Wyoming under the old system, people would vote for what the schools really needed, and if the schools gold-plated it, they'd vote it down. And they'd come back, the school district would then come back with something that was more practical. So I think long-term, Madam Chairman, we're getting ourselves in trouble. And after listening to the debate, I still feel that a vote for this bill is a vote for a future tax increase. We can afford it this year, maybe next year. But in the future, we're getting ourselves in trouble.
Any further discussion on the bill? Senator Dockstader.
Madam Chair, this is not a vote for a future tax increase. It's part of our commitment to our schools across the state. We have brought this through the process at several different levels and decided what was needed where in all of our communities. It's part of our commitment to our education system in the state. We're not increasing taxes, and I am with my leadership that I really doubt the majority of this body would ever support such a measure. On and for the bill.
Thank you. Further discussion? All right, all those in favor of Senator Salazar's motion that when the committee of the whole rise to report that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 105, say aye. All those opposed, no. House Bill, my apologies, House Bill 105 has passed the Committee of the Whole. The next bill for our consideration is House Bill 107.
House Bill 107, engrossed, local government distributions, an act relating to local government funding sponsored by appropriations, referred to Committee Number 2, which returned a do pass as amended recommendation, voting aye, Senators Driscoll, French, Garou, Larson, and Salazar. Signed, Senator Salazar, Chairman.
You have heard the reading of the bill. What is your pleasure, Senator Salazar?
Madam Chair, I move that when the Committee of the Whole rise to report it, do so with a recommendation that House Bill 107 do pass. And to explain this, I will call on the Vice Chair of Senate Appropriations.
Senator Driscoll.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have House Bill 107, Local Government Distributions. It has a standing committee amendment. We have it read in, please.
House Bill 107, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1, 2 engrossed copy, page 2, line 14.
I would move for adoption of Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 107 and ask for your favorable recommendation. Folks, this is another piece that was in the budget that came out. Traditionally, this bill has been embedded within our budget, and basically as a means to lower down the way the budget went, this was pulled out, and it is now in bill form that's going to codify it into law. It's no longer going to be coming back every 2 years to you. This will be a piece that comes. This is belovedly known how it's distributed as the Madden formula. The bill's lengthy and it's got a lot of formulas in it. I'm not going to walk you through it. If you have questions on them, you can do it. But what it really does is, as you go through the bill, this is the local populations, both cities and towns and counties, share of the sales tax. So 2/3 of 89% of the total amount for direct distribution to the cities and towns, provided that 5% of the amount under this paragraph shall only be distributed for direct distribution to cities and towns, and 1/3 of 89% of the total for direct distribution to the counties. This is where their money comes from, folks. The amendment is it came from the House. We were at 5.6% of the total sales tax is where they were at. The committee amendment moves it from 5.6 to 8%. And the net effect of that is, if you'd looked at this, the 2027, the first year of the biennium, at 5.6% would have been 52.09 million, which is about 104 million. When you go back through the days of the Madden formula, it would have been 104. If you look at it at 8%, it's 74.41. So you're at about 150 million plus or minus a biennium. So there's a fairly substantial raise in there that falls between it. This is what will be codified. It's what they get going forward. It stays in that form. I have a handout that shows how it affects your, and I'll have it on your desk for the second reading and ahead that shows how it affects your towns. As I understand it, at the 5.6, the towns that basically are either towns and counties are about even or a little behind from where they've been. It would be a little bit of a bump when you go to the 8. That's the long and short of where it's at. This is just a straight distribution. We've all done it for years. This does put it into law at this point. It doesn't come back year after year in the budget. We've had this has been a budget debate. I see the good senator from Bates Creek nodding, probably since long before I was in the legislature. I think about the time I went in is when it became known as the Madden formula. They quit fighting so much over how they distribute it. It does give more money to hardship counties. That's in the formula up and down, so it's not equal above or equal across. With that, I would ask for a vote on the amendment, which is the raise from the 5.6 to 8%. and ask for your favorable consideration or stand for questions.
Okay, on the amendment, Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And just a little more explanation on the amendment. My amendment says it's going from 7% to 8%, not 5 point whatever you said it. So it's on page 2, line 14. It says it's going from 7 to 8%.
Anybody, we'll go Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I wanted to give you some math on that as well. At 7%, we're at 132 million. 132 million. At 8%, and this is an estimate, we're at 151. So again, 7%, 132 million, 8%, 151 estimate. Last biennium, we were at 146.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to clarify for the good senator behind me, it was at 5.6% in the original draft. The House amended it to 7%. This amendment would take it from 7% to 8%.
Thank you. Further discussion on the amendment? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor of Senator Driscoll's motion that to adopt Standing Committee Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 107, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The amendment has passed. We are back on the bill. Good. There is a Committee of the Whole amendment. Can we have that read in?
House Bill 107, Standing Committee Amendment Number 1, to engross copy, corrected copy, page 1, line 5.
Oh, yes, please.
To the reader, it's Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1, not standing.
Apologies. House Bill 107, Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1, to engross copy, corrected copy, page 1, line 5.
Thank you. Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move Committee of the Whole Amendment Number 1 to House Bill 107 and ask for your favorable consideration. Fellow Senators, we couldn't get out of here without talking about the Wyoming Business Council one more time at the end of the day. And so this is the same amendment I brought to you on the budget. You have a handout on your desk that shows the distribution by county. It looks like this. It's from me. It shows you your 3-year rolling average for population, your 2025 assessed value, and then the distribution per county. What this does is it takes the off-budget account for the Wyoming, the Business Ready Communities grant under the Wyoming Business Council, and it sweeps the $54.9 million, Madam Chairman, into the general fund, to the Office of State, and then it goes to the Office of State Lands and Investments for the purposes of the consensus block grant that we talked about during our budget discussions, Madam Chairman. So basically, C through D, it talks about how that is distributed. And then basically, they have until June 30th of 2030 to go ahead and utilize those funds through the consensus block grant. And the purpose of the grants are for capital improvement projects and subject to subject D of the subsection. So it basically, that's what it does. These are the amounts that would be distributed. So I'd ask for your favorable consideration of this amendment to our local government distribution.
Discussion on the amendment. Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The first concern I have, before I really even weigh the policy aspect of this, is a concern about this being outside the title of the bill and not germane to the bill. So if we look at the bill title, an act relating to local government funding, to some degree, it gets there from that on the broad sense, but that's about it. Continuously distributing a portion of state sales and use taxes collected and accrued each fiscal year for cities, towns, and counties, creating a statutory funding formula, providing legislative intent, and providing for an effective date. I don't think this amendment fits within that title. This is going outside the purpose of the original act. It goes into the Wyoming Business Council, takes prior business-ready community funds, and then puts those through the consensus block grant program, none of which are part of the bill. So I have significant concerns related to whether or not this is appropriate for the bill, and I'd ask the body to resist on that basis alone.
Further discussion on the amendment? Senator Steinmetz.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Staff drafted this for me and assured me that it would fit under the title of this bill. So, and then I did want to explain one further thing, which was on line 16 through 18 on the first page of the amendment. This appropriation shall be reduced dollar for dollar, basically, if the Senate's Senate File 1 has this in it in the final budget, so we wouldn't be double appropriating. And I know that's a very important thing. If you have looked at your goldenrod lately, there's a section on the bottom that I haven't seen before in my tenure here at the legislature, and that shows how many things have been double appropriated right now, and the funds we're going to have to sort out as we unwind this. So this is a very straightforward amendment. I hope you'll see fit to vote for it, and thank you, Madam Chairman.
Further discussion, Senator Ide and then Rothfuss.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I appreciate the bringer of this amendment. I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit from my ideology, so to speak. I like the fact that we're taking back the unobligated funds of the business-ready grant from Wyoming Business Council, but on the other hand, I guess I don't understand why we should give that for more local government funding. That's kind of why don't we just save that money, and I don't know why it should go to local government funding. Thank you.
Senator Ide. Senator Rothfuss.
Thanks, Madam Chairman. Madam Chairman, first of all, just from a procedural standpoint, I do think it is more appropriate to argue points on the merits of the points rather than calling upon staff and staff expertise I had staff draft it and they assured me it was constitutional. You know, we need to debate the merits on the floor of the arguments, not call upon staff who regrettably isn't here to debate. I would love to have a staff member next to me all the time also to check upon things. So I guess I would ask that we refrain from, calling our Oracle staff and saying staff said this, staff said that, because we just can't appropriately address that on the floor. And Madam Chairman, I still, from my perspective, find this to be outside of the original title. And I would challenge it to the chair pursuant to Rule 11.6 scope of amendments, which states pursuant to Article 3, Section 20 of the Wyoming Constitution, no bill shall be so altered or amended on its passage to the Senate as to change its original purpose, and ask for a ruling from the chair as to whether or not this changes outside of its original purpose. You're welcome.
Thank you for whatever. Last bill of the day. I do think that this does go outside the title of the bill. Senator Steinmetz?
Madam Chairman, I call for the Rules Committee.
Okay. Rules Committee has been called. The, Senator Nethercott?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, so we will stand at ease till the sound of the gavel for the Rules Committee.
All right. The Committee of the Whole will come back to order, please. Senator Beitman?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Rules Committee met and unanimously voted to uphold the decision of the chair. The committee felt that the amendment was outside of the bill title. Thank you.
All right, Okay, so the amendment has been ruled out of order. We are back on the bill. So discussion on the bill. Questions being called. Senator Hicks.
So members of the body, I want you to think about something here. And so we've now codifying what I would say is a funding model. So think in comparison of this other thing we do with education. So this codifies this and says we're going to fund local government distributions based on this statute. And here's my concern. And I have been probably one of the biggest advocates for local government distributions over the years. I think many of you know that. But this is sales tax. The trouble is when we start going into economic recession, local governments don't get severance taxes, they don't get federal mineral royalties. So what it effectively happens is the reason in the past that we've had $90,000 or $90 million of distributions or $175 million of distributions, those level of distributions greatly followed what the revenues coming into the state did. And when we had extra, we put it out to those local governments. When we didn't, we tightened it up. What this does is fix in policy and in law and says we're going to distribute this. But keep in mind, when sales taxes go down, a lot of those are coming off our heavy industries. When we're mining and we're drilling, sales tax are coming in. We get the triple dip. We lose severance taxes, we lose mineral royalties, and we lose sales taxes. And so I think this is fine, but my concern is proceed with caution. And as long as we can craft an escape clauses, because what my concern is because we're going to hit the triple dip, and that's where we usually pull back on local government distributions, because we have other obligations they don't have, like K through 12 and highways and some of these other things, that we have some built-in escape mechanism. And so I think we need to look at that, because the last thing I want to do is create another law that we get sued over under an economic downturn because we choose not to fund this based on what that is. And so I think as we move into second reading on this, we need to take that into consideration. I've always thought we should have something in here, but it's absolutely essential on a policy standpoint to have at some point there's a trigger or a mechanism that we're not obligated to do this, because I worry about future lawsuits associated with kind of putting this model legislation together. So I'd say vote for it. Let's see if we can't come up with a good second reading amendment along those lines to address that issue that I have a lot of concern with it as it currently structured.
Senator Scott and then Senator Salazar.
Madam Chairman, I think there's considerable wisdom in what we just heard. Let me just throw out two quick suggestions of how to handle it. You could put a provision in this bill that says that the total amount of the local government distribution could be varied in the budget bill every year or every biennium, but the formula would be locked in. You'd just be distributing by formula a lesser amount. That would be one way to handle it. Another way to handle it would be to put a sunset date, relatively short sunset date, where this would expire and we could just repeal the sunset date, reinstate it or amend it every year. those are at least two different suggestions that I throw out for members to think about for second reading on this, because I do think there's a good deal of wisdom in what we just heard.
Senator Salazar?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I brought this issue up in committee. I know everyone is excited that they don't have to come every year and hat in hand and ask for it, but I will simply say this: if we have a COVID #2, if we have a national economic emergency, if we get into a deep recession, be careful what you ask for. I know it gives stability to our counties and cities the vast majority of the time. But does anyone doubt in our future at some point we're going to have a hiccup, that we're going to have some type of an economic downturn? Something to think about.
Thank you. Senator Anderson?
Madam Chairman, this is kind of interesting. We used to tax groceries, and we decided we'd take taxes off groceries. Well, there was a huge debate about who paid and who got those dollars from groceries, and it turned out it was just the bigger communities, because the small communities didn't sell any groceries. So that started the whole evolution of how do we split up this money. Along comes Madden 20 years ago with a formula to put it into various communities, and we've been fighting about it ever since. I'm for leaving it alone, just like it is, even though it took a lot out of our community and gave it to the smaller communities. Our larger communities said that'd be okay and went with the Madden formula. There'll always be a smaller community wanting to change that formula and do it differently. I say leave it alone, and I'm all for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Driscoll?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I too have listened to the thoughts on it. Folks, it's a statute. That's what we do down here. If we're short of money, we can go back in, we can change statutes, and we can pull back. We've done it. Really interesting part I get of the conversation we just had is we're more than willing to protect ourselves at a state level and say we're going to keep ourselves whole in a bad time, and we're going to take it out of our little communities while we suffer. And I find it interesting. We're the ones that actually have the ability to change for ourselves. We can move taxes up and down. We can do all kinds of neat stuff. Our cities and towns can't. My suggestion would be, if we're going to do this, if you get into a downtime, is give them a tool that they actually can have revenue to make themselves whole. We continue, I see it from my end, and it's difficult for me, is we make our local community suffer while the state stays whole. And I think it's something that we need to look inwardly and decide if that's really what we want to do, because I live in some of those little communities, and I can tell you, back to the grocery stores, that was the only source of income we had. When you come to the little towns like I'm at, like in Hewlett, we exempt our farm equipment, we exempt groceries. They don't raise any money. You drive down the street in my town, that's the only money they're getting, and they're living off of it. And we get in a downturn, and we say, well, we're just going to rake it all back from it. What have we just done? We've took the people that collected the taxes and told them, you're on a fixed income and you suffer, and we're going to use this to backfill for us. I think we honestly have to face that we're all part of the solution together, not part of the problem.
Thank you. Senator McEwen?
I'd just like to push back on small communities don't sell groceries. It's been my experience. I sell quite a few groceries in Wright, Wyoming, and it's tiny. And I know the guys that own Hewlett. So I just want to make that comment. Thank you.
Thank you. For Senator Kolb?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd just like to also expound about the Madden formula. It is not beneficial for Sweetwater. And I think for the same reasons you heard from the central part of the state, we were willing to give some money to those smaller communities because we understood that. But to be very clear, the Madden formula is not fair to my county. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Kolb. Senator Hicks?
Madam Chairman, if anybody took what I was trying to articulate as somehow we're going to take money away and we're going to make them hurt, we're going to punish these little communities, Well, you know, that'd be the guy that represents more small communities than anybody in this building. Political suicide. What I'm saying is you need to build safeguards in there for contingency purposes. Nobody's gonna come in and take all of it, but you may end up in a situation out, and I'm not looking after me, I'm looking after future generations, legislatures, and here's the most cruel thing that you can absolutely do, is we set up a program, we create an entitlement or the appearance that you're gonna get all this, and then at some point we come in and change the law and pull it all back. If you move forward with certainty, and you know that you're going into an economic downturn, and there's some trigger in there that says at this point in time, we start to look at an adjustment, not a withdrawal, an adjustment. I'm just saying, it's just good policy. It's also good policy to message to those fleets. If we go into recession, they know it's coming. They know that certainty is there's going to be a reduction there. I'm not saying take their money away from them. I'm saying be smart about how we craft laws and how we message to those folks out there so we can all plan equally for the down times and not have to come down here and fight it out. Now, so if it was come across that I said, oh, we want a trigger where we're going to jerk it all away, that's not what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying, give future generations the opportunity to make adjustments based on the circumstances that they're going to be facing in the future. Again, we collectively have larger obligations than as the legislature, than some of the communities. So I don't think even they would argue against the need for an adjustment. So, Mr. Chairman, again, I suggest we pass the bill, see if we can craft something that might work, and have this discussion as we move forward. It's just trying to set good public policy.
Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman, and adding on to that, the emergency they're most likely to face is not a big downturn, but a big inflation, where we need the flexibility to increase the spending here to give them a better share so they can manage. So I think that we need to keep that in mind as we try to craft a remedy.
Further discussion on the bill? Senator French.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I fully support this. You know, as the good senator said, something about inflation. Well, if inflation hits, also the sales tax collections are going to be bigger too. You know, so I would like to I've been dealing with this since 2001, when I first became a county commissioner. Come down here and ask for for my county, ask for our money back. You know, who generates this money? It's the cities, towns, and counties. When they purchase something, they pay a sales tax, and they send it all to the state, and the state gives them back 31%. But let's eliminate this every 2 years or every year discussion on this, that, you know, each legislature, each administration has a different view. Well, let's do this local distribution, $80 million. Well, a couple years later, whatever, no, 105 million. A few years later, let's do 140. Well, no, let's do 75. Let's eliminate that. Let's create some certainty out there. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Senator French, any further discussion on the bill? Any further discussion on the bill? Seeing none and hearing for the question, all those in favor of Senator Salazar's motion that when the committee of the whole rise to report that it do so with a favorable recommendation of House Bill 107, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? All right, House Bill 107 has passed the committee of the whole. Senator Driscoll.
Privilege.
Privilege.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In our south gallery, there's a guy sitting up there in a checkered suit that spent a lot of years on this side and on the other side. Senator Bruce Burns, who is kind of one of the, not as long as Charlie Scott, but dang sure not very far off of it, esteemed member my first chairman of a committee for me when I came on TRW a long time ago, and he'd been here a long time then. Please join me in welcoming him.
Tell a joke.
We're gonna send him to the
Madam Majority Floor Leader. I would. Okay, that'll help.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Committee of the Whole rise and report.
You have heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion as carried.
Committee of the Whole report.
Excuse me. Mr. President, your Committee of the Whole, having under consideration bills on general file, begs leave to report as follows. House Joint Resolution 2, do pass amended. House Bill 34 engrossed, do pass. House Bill 35 engrossed, do pass. House Bill 85 engrossed, do pass amended. House Bill 105 engrossed, do pass amended. House Bill 107 engrossed, do pass amended. Senator Brennan, Chairman.
Senator Brennan.
Mr. President, I move the adoption of the Committee of the Whole report.
Heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion's been adopted. Committee of the Whole report has been adopted. Thank you, Senator Brennan. Ellen, do we have any announcements? We have some standing committee reports.
Mr. President, dated February 24, 2026, your Committee Number 1, Judiciary, to whom was referred House Bill 9 engrossed, grooming of children, offenses, and amendments, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass as amended. Voting aye, Senators Craigo, Crum, Hicks, Kolb, and Olson. Signed, Senator Olson, Chairman. Mr. President, dated February 24th, 2026, your Committee Number 1, Judiciary, to whom was referred House Bill 8, Stalking of Minors, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators Craigo, Crum, Kolb, Olson, excused, Senator Hicks. Signed, Senator Olson, Chairman. Mr. President, dated February 24th, 2026, your Committee Number 1, Judiciary, to whom was referred House Bill 28, Sexual Exploitation of Children Amendments, respectfully report same back to the Senate with the recommendation that it do pass. Voting aye, Senators Craigo, Crum, Hicks, Kolb, and Olson. Signed, Senator Olson, Chairman.
Do we have any messages from the House?
From the House of Representatives, message number 190. Mr. President, dated February 24th, 2026. The House adopted the Committee of the Whole report failing the bills listed below by the vote indicated. Senate File 43, Conservation District Supervisor Contracting, ayes 20, noes 37, excused 5. The bill has been indefinitely postponed. Sincerely, Katie Talbot, House Chief Clerk.
I think they're going to arrest the House members that voted against that bill. Madam Majority Floor Leader, that clears the desk.
Mr. President, I move that we stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Wednesday, February 25th.
Thank you. Any announcements? Senator Anderson.
Mr. President, I'd like to make an announcement for tomorrow.
For tomorrow?
For tomorrow, yes. Your favorite committee, Minerals, Business, and Economic Development, will meet Wednesday, February 25th at noon in room W04 to hear two bills. House Bill 75 engrossed virtual currency kiosks, and House Bill 128 enhanced oil recovery severance tax exemption. That's tomorrow we're going to meet, Mr. President.
All
Thank you.
right, thank you, Chairman Anderson. Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your committee number 1 judiciary will meet tomorrow upon noon recess in W002 to consider HB 10 sexually explicit materials in libraries.
Thank you. Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Education Committee number 4 will meet tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock a.m., and we're staying with W006. Room seems to work for us. And we'll be taking a look at 3 bills: House Bill 23, engrossed, participation in 6 through 12 activities; House Bill 24, review of charter school applications; and House Bill 25, Wyoming's Tomorrow Scholarship Program amendments.
Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate appropriations will be meeting upon noon recess in E202. We'll be dealing with House Bill 122, Wyoming Rural Health Transformation Program.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none. You heard the majority floor leader's motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. The Senate stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.